Hi friends, welcome back to my channel. Today we will learn about the parotid gland. You all know parotid gland is the largest of the three pairs of the salivary glands which are present in our body. There are two salivary glands, two parotid glands which are on either side of the face. They are present in the parotid region. The parotid region is the space below this external acoustic meatus and behind the mandible. The parotid gland is located in the digastric triangle. It is a serous gland and it is about 25 grams in weight. As it is molded in the parotid bed or the space, it gives projections which are called processes. We will discuss all these things today. The parotid gland is inverted pyramidal in shape and it is located in the parotid bed. So, how it is located? It presents three borders, one anterior border, one posterior border and one medial border. So, first of all we will see the parotid bed. So, if this is the zygomatic process, external acoustic meatus and the mastoid process. This is the mandible and here is the styloid process. If we see, the parotid region is below the external acoustic meatus and behind the mandible. So, you all know on the lateral aspect of the mandible, the masseter muscle is present like this. So, this is the masseter muscle and this is the temporomandibular joint with its capsule. This is the temporomandibular joint and capsule. Lateral ligament is here and behind at the mastoid process we have the insertion of the sternocleidomastoid. This is the cleidomastoid part of the sternocleidomastoid. And medial to this process, the posterior belly of digastric takes origin. It goes like this towards the hyoid bone. So, in the intermediate tendon and it goes as anterior belly. This is the digastric muscle. Digastric means two bellies. Now, from the styloid process, another muscle goes down to the hyoid bone like this. It splits into two and encircles the intermediate tendon of the digastric muscle and inserts onto the hyoid bone. So, this is the stylohyoid. This is the stylohyoid muscle. Then from the tip of the styloid process to the angle of the mandible, we have a ligament. This is the stylomandibular ligament. So, this is the stylomandibular ligament. Then another muscle to the tongue, styloglossus muscle, which goes medial to the mandible, to the tongue. From the middle of the styloid process, stylopharyngeus muscle also goes to the pharynx. So, styloid process and the muscles attached to it are present at the floor of this parotid bed. Here the internal carotid artery goes above and the internal jugular vein descends down behind the styloid process. Between them are the last 4 cranial nerves here. Glossopharyngeal nerve goes like this, accessory nerve goes behind. So, hypoglossal nerve descends down and vagus nerve also descends down. So, 4 cranial nerves. So, this forms the parotid bed. The parotid gland is molded here like this. So, from here to here, like this. Thus, the base of the gland is present below the external acoustic meatus and the apex crosses the posterior belly of the digastric muscle to enter the carotid triangle. If you see, the anterior border is overlaps this masseter muscle and the posterior border overlaps the sternocleidomastoid muscle. So, these all forms the relation of the gland. How they are relating, we will see a little bit later. Now, if we see the gland, the gland presents 3 borders, one anterior border, one medial border and one posterior border. So, the anterior border is towards the masseter muscle, this is the posterior border and this is the medial border. So, like this. So, this is the anterior border, posterior border and medial border. This is the medial border. Now, you can see a lateral surface, anteromedial surface and a posteromedial surface. So, 3 borders, 3 surfaces. This gland is covered by 2 capsules, one true capsule and one false capsule. True capsule is formed by the condensation of the stroma of this gland, so which is lying intimately attached to this gland. The false capsule is formed by the deep cervical fascia. The deep cervical fascia splits and encloses the gland, and if this is the gland in the lateral view, here the zygomatic process is there, zygomatic arch, and here the external acoustic meatus and the styloid process. The deep cervical fascia splits and attaches, the superficial layer attaches to the zygomatic arch and the deep layer attaches to the cartilaginous part of the external acoustic meatus. This layer is weak, the deep layer is weak and the superficial layer blends with the epimysium of the masseter muscle and it forms very thick fascia which is called parotidomasseteric fascia, which is intimately attached to the gland and the muscle. So, any infection in this region causes severe pain. So, this is the parotidomasseteric fascia. Thus, this false capsule is formed by the deep cervical fascia which splits into 2 layers. The true layer is the condensation of the stroma of the gland. Now, coming to the gland, this is the lateral surface which is covered by the parotidomasseteric fascia. This layer is covered by the parotidomasseteric fascia. Now, coming to the anterior border, around the middle of the anterior border, we have the emergence of the parotid duct. This is the parotid duct. It is called Stenson's duct also. So, the parotid duct emerges from the anterior border, remember that. Now, we will talk about the anteromedial medial surface. You can see there is a groove here on the surface. This groove accommodates the posterior border of the ramus of the mandible. So, this is the posterior border of the ramus of the mandible. Why it is there? The ramus of mandible is like this and the gland is present around it like this. So, it goes behind the ramus also. This is the anterior border. So, this groove which is going around this mandible causes this depression. So, this side is the masseter muscle. So, here is the masseter muscle. This is the masseter muscle, and on the medial aspect we have the medial pterygoid muscle. So, this is the medial pterygoid muscle. This is the medial pterygoid. So, this surface is related to, if you see this surface here, it is related to masseter, and on the other side is the medial pterygoid, and at the above it is related to the temporomandibular joint and its capsule. So, now coming to this area, it is very extensive and it also presents few grooves. So, this groove is for the this is the mastoid process. This is the mastoid process. The mastoid process on its lateral aspect has the insertion of sternocleidomastoid, and on its medial side there is a groove which is for the origin of the posterior belly of digastric muscle. So, this is the posterior belly of digastric. So, I will mark here. So, this is the digastric muscle, posterior belly of digastric muscle originates there. Now, in this space there is a foramen called stylomastoid foramen. This is a stylomastoid foramen is there here, from where the facial nerve emerges onto the face. So, from here the facial nerve emerges and pierces this surface to enter the gland. Within the gland it divides into two branches. One branch goes upward and one branch goes downward. So, these two branches are zygomaticofacial and zygomaticotemporal. That means the facial nerve comes into the gland here. If this is the gland, it comes here and divides into two, zygomaticotemporal and zygomaticofacial. This is zygomaticotemporal, zygomaticofacial. Details of this branching and other things we will discuss while we discuss about the face. So, then these branches emerge along the anterior border, they emerge out onto the face to innervate the muscles of facial expression. Then a little bit later, as already said, here it is the styloid process and the styloid apparatus. It is called styloid apparatus here. So, styloid process is there and the muscles attached to it. So, these are present in this region. Then I already told you the internal carotid artery is present here and the internal jugular vein is present here. The last four cranial nerves are related to this here. So, this is the 9th nerve going like this. This is the 10th nerve going down in the carotid sheath. So, this is the 9th, 10th, 11th, this is the 11 and the 12 also going in this direction. So, these are the four cranial nerves related to this surface, and under that we have the first cervical vertebra atlas. The atlas is located like this. vertebral foramen, and this is the origin point for rectus lateralis muscle. So, this is the pharynx. So, these are the surfaces of the gland: lateral surface, anteromedial surface, posteromedial surface, and their relations. Now, I already told you that parotid gland is casting in the parotid mould or the parotid bed. Thus, it gives few processes, that means extensions into the spaces. So, what are the processes present there? This is the first process, that is called the facial process. The facial process goes on to the face. It starts from the anterior border. So, if this is the gland, this from this anterior border, about its half the distance, the parotid duct extends like this. So, this extension is called the facial process. And also sometimes a detached part of this facial process may present below the zygomatic arch as accessory parotid gland, and its ducts open into the main parotid duct. So, this is the accessory parotid gland or the process. This is the detached part of the facial process. So, this is the facial process. Then comes in this region, this is related to the temporomandibular joint. Sometimes a part of it may go behind the temporomandibular joint, which is called glenoid process. So, that is called glenoid process. It goes behind the temporomandibular joint here only. Then this part is related to the insertion point of the medial pterygoid muscle. Sometimes it may extend a bit into the space between the medial pterygoid muscle and the mandible. So, this part is called the pterygoid part. So, this is called pterygoid process. So, facial process, glenoid process, then the third one is the pterygoid process. Then comes here, you can see there are two processes. One is in front of the styloid apparatus and one is after the styloid apparatus. So, this is called pre-styloid process and this is called the post-styloid process. So, these are the processes present in the gland. So, these are the parts of the gland. And if we see, this is the internal carotid artery, then what about the external carotid artery? The external carotid artery, even though it is divided from the common carotid in the carotid triangle, it ascends up and pierces the gland from this surface and enters the gland here, and then it divides into the maxillary artery and superficial temporal artery. Likewise, the superficial temporal vein, after joining the maxillary vein, forms the retromandibular vein here. So, these are the parts present there. Thus, you can see here a neurovascular plane is formed here. Thus, this gland can be divided as a H-shaped structure, which is helpful in surgical removal of this gland. Now, we will see what are the structures related or emerging out from its borders. If you see the base, it is somewhat wider, but it is concave to accommodate the external acoustic meatus which is present here. This is the external acoustic meatus. Immediately in front of this, that is in front of the auricle, we have the auriculotemporal nerve emerging up from this border. The auriculotemporal nerve, after winding around the temporomandibular joint, passes through the false capsule of this gland and in this region, then it emerges through the upper border or the base of the gland to supply the temporal region and the front of the auricle, including the external acoustic meatus. It also carries the preganglionic secretomotor fibers to this parotid gland. Then comes the superficial temporal artery and superficial temporal vein. This is auriculotemporal nerve, superficial temporal artery, superficial temporal vein. Then we have the temporal branch of the facial nerve. I already told you the facial nerve divides into a zygomatico-temporal branch and a zygomatico-facial branch. Out of them, the zygomatico-temporal branch, from here it divides into a temporal branch and a zygomatic branch. This is the zygomatic branch, temporal branch and zygomatic branch. They supply the muscles of the facial expression. Details we will see in the class for the muscles of the facial expression. Then comes the zygomatico-facial branch. This branch here divides into a buccal branch, a marginal mandibular branch and a cervical branch. This buccal branch divides into an upper buccal branch and a lower buccal branch. This upper buccal branch goes above the parotid duct like this, either above this gland or under the gland. The lower buccal branch, so this lower buccal branch passes from its anterior border under the parotid duct. This superficial temporal artery gives a branch within the gland, that is the transverse facial artery, which passes through the gland and passes between the buccal branch and the zygomatic arch. This is the transverse facial artery. Then coming down, we have here the marginal mandibular branch, then the cervical branch, which supplies the platysma muscle. So these are the 5 terminal branches of the facial nerve, which resembles the foot of a goose. That's why they are called pes anserinus. They spread like this. So pes anserinus. Then coming down, we have from this superficial temporal vein joins the maxillary vein to form the retromandibular vein within the substance. Then the retromandibular vein divides into an anterior division and a posterior division. This anterior division emerges out here and it joins the facial vein to form the common facial vein, which drains into internal jugular vein, and this posterior division joins the posterior auricular vein either within the gland or just outside the gland to form the external jugular vein. This is the external jugular vein. This is the common facial vein. Then before dividing into the superficial temporal and maxillary arteries, we have the posterior auricular artery, which is a branch of the external carotid artery. So here it is formed within the gland. Then we have another nerve of the facial nerve, that is the posterior auricular nerve. So posterior auricular nerve and posterior auricular artery, posterior auricular vein. These are related to the posterior border of this gland. So these are the structures which are emerging out through the borders. Now coming to the blood supply, we have the branches of the external carotid, superficial temporal artery, transverse facial artery, all give branches to this gland. The veins drain directly into this or to the pterygoid venous plexus and from there to the internal jugular vein. The lymphatics, there are 2 groups of lymphatics, superficial parotid lymph groups and deep parotid lymph groups within the capsule, and they drain into the jugular digastric group of lymph nodes. Then coming to the nerve supply, it has a secretomotor nerve supply, that is the parasympathetic nerve supply from the otic ganglion. So, the preganglionic secretomotor fibers are coming from the inferior salivatory nucleus, in the medulla oblongata. From there, through the glossopharyngeal nerve and through its tympanic branch, which forms tympanic plexus behind the tympanum, along with the carotico-tympanic fibers of the superior cervical sympathetic ganglion, and from there through its lesser petrosal nerve, which enters the infratemporal fossa through foramen ovale or foramen innominatum, then joins the otic ganglion and relays there. From there, the postganglionic parasympathetic secretomotor fibers pass through the auriculotemporal nerve and reach the gland and spread there to distribute the entire gland. The auriculotemporal nerve also carries the sympathetic fibers, which are vasomotor and also secretomotor, because they cause the secretion of the mucus in this gland. Even though mucus glands are present, it is predominantly serous in nature. So, the vasomotor fibers or the sympathetic fibers are carried both from the sympathetic plexus around the external carotid artery and also from the middle meningeal artery, which pass through the otic ganglion without any relay. And the chorda tympani nerve, which is present in the infratemporal fossa, also gives few fibers to the otic ganglion, which also sends a few secretomotor fibers from the superior salivatory nucleus, which pass through the facial nerve and the submandibular ganglion. So, this is about the parotid gland and its nerve supply. So, coming to the microstructure, it is a compound tubulo-alveolar gland, which is mainly having seromucous glands, but the secretion is predominantly serous in nature. So, the glands consists of serous acini. Details we will see in another class, but briefly, the serous acini are like this, and they are lined by the serous alveoli is there and serous acini are there. Serous acinus is pyramidal shape with rounded nucleus in the center. The apex region of these cells are filled by the eosinophilic secretions, which are drained into this cavity by the canaliculae present at the sides of the apexes, and these are all collected by the intercalated ducts. These are intercalated ducts, and few intercalated ducts join to form the striated ducts. These are the striated ducts. So, these are lined by the cuboidal epithelium, and in this region the epithelium has striations, and they form the vertical ducts, and two vertical ducts join to form the parotid duct. The parotid duct crosses the masseter muscle, then after crossing the masseter muscle, it turns medially and pierces the buccal pad of fat and the buccinator muscle. Then under the mucosa, it turns forward and goes about 1 centimeter, then turns medial again and opens into the buccal cavity on a papilla opposite to the crown of the second molar teeth. So, this curve acts as a valve. It acts as a valve to prevent the entry of any food or fluid from the mouth and also air during blowing. So, this is about the parotid duct. If we see one acinus, it will be like this. It is pyramidal in shape, like this, and central round nucleus, this is the nucleus, and eosinophilic granules here. If we see two cells, the other cell will be here. You can see at the base both are connected by tight bonding, but near the apex there is a intercellular canaliculi are there. The secretions are released into these spaces, and from there into the alveolar space, and from there to the duct system. So, this is about the serous acinus. This under the basement here and there we will see flat cells, they are the myoepithelial cells. Details we will see in another video. With this we conclude the parotid gland and its gross anatomy. Thank you for watching. Please do like, share, subscribe, and you can place your queries and any suggestions in the comment section. Thank you very much.